Hey everybody, it's Marcia from Woomi, and today we're going to continue reading on the cause and emotional patterns for releasing emotional patterns with essential oils, and then we'll probably get to identify emotional patterns after that. So let's see how this goes. The cause of emotional patterns. An emotional pattern is a fear-based survival response. The purpose of the ego is to protect us from harm. The ego is like a big computer. It collects all the data from your life experiences, taking everything that is said literally and stores it. And the ego protective response are based on past experiences. So further responses will be the same unless the program is changed. As we mature and grow, we need to update the ego's program to experience the full potential. For example, when you were a small child, you were told not to go into the street, right? And when you were older, you were able to be responsible for yourself, you were taught to look both ways. And to cross the street when it's safe, right? And if you stayed in the initial program, the streets is dangerous, and stay out of it. You would be afraid to cross the street and never experience the world beyond the block where you lived. As children, we make survival decisions based on our abilities. If we grew up with parents who would punish you every time you said something that they didn't like, you would quickly learn to keep your parents happy by not expressing your feelings whenever you thought it would upset them. And this would initiate a survival pattern of speaking the truth when the people around you could disapprove. To be safe, you have to control your emotions. And since it wasn't safe to spontaneously express your feelings, you had to suppress internalize them and find them out another outlet. As children, we have limited resources, especially when our role models have poor ways of handling their negative emotions. As a result, most of us know the negative expression of an emotion, but few of us know the positive side, and let alone how to assess it. Pain is usually what causes us to seek better ways of handling situations. Pain is usually induced through trauma from physical or emotional. The trauma then initiates emotional pattern, which causes the following to occur. There's 4 things here. 1, the emotional energy that gets generated during a trauma enters the body, and if it's not released, it gets stored in an organ or gland with the same vibrational energy. For example, anger is stored in the liver. Number 2, the memory of a trauma gets stored in the limbic system of the brain, which is the seat of the emotions. Number 3, our minds create a belief and attach it to emotional memory stored in the limbic system of the brain. Number 4, the emotional response to the trauma gets stored in the cellular memory throughout the body and becomes automatic. So, identifying these emotional patterns. The easiest way to identify emotional patterns is through your feelings. While a trauma or either real or perceived will set up an initial pattern, similar situations trigger the pattern, providing an opportunity to either perpetuate or heal it. Anything that bothers you carries an emotional charge. As an awareness grows, you have more resources to handle the situation differently, learning from the past experiences. If you choose to ignore this and suppress the feelings, the problem needs to be magnified each time it protects itself. The excess of a life experience is to have experiences so we can learn, grow, and master. The experiences we learn most from are the ones that get our attention. For most of us, it takes pain to cause it to look at the situation. However, all too often, emotional trauma produces more pain than we can deal with. So we block it. We block it off from our conscious awareness. Since we are supposed to get wiser as we get older, learn from their experiences, and unhealed emotional trauma eventually resurface. Why? Because there's something we need to learn. What is the basic lesson? What do we need to learn? To come from love rather than fear. All emotions stem from either love or fear. Fear ultimately comes from a disconnection of one's spiritual source. Consequently, all religious and spiritual paths point to supreme spiritual being as a source of all that is. The goal is spiritual connection, which is reflected in the way we live our lives. Essentially, being spiritually aligned allows us to come from love and express the positive qualities of life. The body holds emotional patterns regardless of conscious awareness. Since the body never lies and holds blocked energy, it is a good indicator and it has unresolved emotional issues. Oftentimes, the first indication of a problem is pain, physical pain, emotional, or both. Many physical problems have an emotional component, especially when they are chronic. Some emotions are so strong and evident that they are easy to recognize. When this is the cause, you can approach the emotion by going to a specific emotion found in the emotional reference section and begin directly releasing it. Sometimes we bury our emotions and we store them in our body until insufficient pressure builds, producing pain or disease in the area. And that reference for that is Feelings Buried Alive Never Die, Carol Trueman. To identify emotions associated with a particular area of pain, locate the pain on the body charts and refer to the body reference for the associated emotion. Carol L. Mean, D.C., she said, once the emotion has been identified, its other side understood, and the lesson or the way to out known, it needs to be released from the cellular memory. Carol Meese, PhD. She said that's why people don't heal and how they can. Why people don't heal and how they can. Carol Meese, PhD, is the reference for that. She states that 70% of the body's cells need to shift before the new direction becomes a reality. This explains why it takes more than conscious awareness for a pattern to shift. While understanding a pattern is important, the body or cellular memory needs to get the message as well. Hence, the need for repetition and a clearly procedure. So tomorrow or Monday, since today's Friday, Monday I will be reading Identifying Core Issues. Now, are we learning anything out of this? I think this is interesting. I think by studying our patterns of how we have our what's going on in our life or others' lives, we can help other people as well as ourselves. If we just pay attention to get to know somebody, pay attention to how they live and the things they do or say, and if they're always negative, or because there's a lot of that out there. And if you can see that and maybe explain it to somebody that they need to release that and heal themselves, maybe they'll think you're crazy, or maybe they'll say, what, how do I do that? Send them my way and let them listen to this, and I will help them. I believe I can do that. I'm not a doctor, but I have references in here from doctors, and I'm going to learn this and make myself better. That's the first thing I'm going to do. I like this book because it has let me see here. All kinds of things in here. I'm going to just read this first one right here on top. The emotion is anguish. The other side of anguish is what? Ecstasy. The way out, I am willing to accept the truth. The oil that you use for that is Palo Santo. The alarm point is the heart. So you put the Palo Santo over the heart. BGH. Where's BGH? I think that's in the chart. See, I'm learning this as I go. BGH. I think there's, yep, there we go. No. There's a chart here of an ear and different triggers, things that people might have. I don't know if you want to snap a picture of that or what, but you're welcome to if you want. Learn a little bit right along with me. Who knows? You might even can teach me some things. Here's some for if you have pain in your feet, what part, like in the arch or on the big toe, your neck, your eyes, your parathyroid or thyroid, your shoulders, your lungs, solar plexus, diaphragm, the liver, the stomach, the pancreas, the gallbladder, all kinds of things. And you just learn the reflex points, place the oil on the spot and rub it in and release the tension and make you feel better. I am ready. But I got more reading to do before I can continue on to that. So let's continue on Monday, since today is Friday, and we don't need to be getting in on weekends because I have a lot to do. So we will go continue on Monday. So I'll see you Monday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and remember, God loves you. So do I.